And we are live. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this evening's town hall. We will be providing instructions regarding the interpretation channels here in just a moment.
Hola, buenas noches. Está disponible una interpretación simultánea en español. Para acceder a la interpretación en español, en un segundo pueden navegar al globito que va a estar en la parte inferior de la barra de herramientas. Pulsen ahí en el globito, activen la interpretación y escojan español. Y también pueden usar para poner en silencio el audio original, que está más fácil para escuchar. De nuevo, pueden hacer clic en el globito en la parte inferior de la pantalla para acceder a la interpretación simultánea y ahí escojan la opción de español. Muchas gracias.
Good evening and welcome to the Boulder County Board of County Commissioners Town Hall. We appreciate you joining us this evening. We're here tonight to discuss the Highway 119 or Diagonal makeover, which has the potential to positively impact everyone in the county who travels that corridor for work or fun, getting to and from Boulder and Longmont. We will start with a short video entitled Colorado Highway 119, the Diagonal Vision Plan from YouTube about the project, followed by a brief presentation by Kathleen, the Deputy Director of Community Planning and Permitting and Transportation Planning, and Alex Hyde-Wright, the Principal Transportation Planner, who is also part of our Community Planning and Permitting Transportation Planning Department at Boulder County. Following the presentation, we will take live questions from attendees about the project using the Q&A function in Zoom. And for the last half of the meeting, we will take public comments about transportation topics from each pre-registered person until about 6:20 p.m. this evening. We're looking forward to hearing from Boulder County residents, and commissioners will have an opportunity to respond to public comment once all the speakers have been able to participate. Please note that there are other ways to provide comments and participate in the work that Boulder County commissioners do daily. We welcome written comments at commissioners@bouldercounty.org. And I'd like to thank the transportation teams and staff at Boulder County for all their work and turn this evening's presentation over to Kathleen, Deputy Director of Cpmp.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Locheman. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening with all of the commissioners and to share this information. tonight on the Colorado 119 corridor, some exciting work that is happening there. And I want to just take a brief moment to introduce our team that's with us this evening and available to help answer questions. So in addition to myself, we have Alex Heidwright with our transportation planning team. Also Alexandra Phillips, who is our bicycle and pedestrian planner and helping with the 119 commuter bikeway. Also Tanya Lubert, our regional trails planner. And then Stacy Proctor is not able to be with us tonight, but I want to acknowledge her work as the project manager for the Colorado 119 commuter bikeway. In addition, from transportation, we have Tim Swope from the Boulder County's Public Works Department to help address general transportation questions. And we're also joined by our agency partners who are helping us with the Colorado 119 project. As you'll hear in the video in our presentation, this is very much a team effort with Boulder County, Colorado Department of Transportation, and RTD, the Regional Transportation District. So with us tonight from CDOT is Ednana Murtek, and Ednana is the project manager for Colorado 119 for CDOT. And then also Chris Quinn from RTD has joined us as well. And Chris has been a longtime leader working on the Colorado 119 corridor for RTD. So we're all here this evening and looking forward to sharing this information with you and answering your questions. Thank you very much. We'll turn on the video at this point.
Connection between Longmont and Boulder. It is the second most traveled corridor in Boulder County, and it's only going to get busier. The communities and areas served by the highway are some of the fastest growing areas in the Front Range. The Diagonal is one of the most dangerous roadways in our county. There are far too many serious and fatal crashes.
Action is needed to address the current and future congestion and safety problems. So Boulder County has teamed up with the community and local and regional partners to create the multimodal corridor vision for State Highway 119. This vision includes transit improvements, including commuter rail, commuter bikeway, and roadway improvements. It will take time to complete the entire vision, but we are making progress. The Highway 119 corridor improvements will optimize regional connectivity, safety and mobility between Boulder and Longmont and the communities beyond by providing people with travel choices, including bicycle, riding transit, and driving. The Colorado Department of Transportation is working on the design of safety and mobility improvements for the corridor, including design of the BRT transit elements, roadway, and intersection improvements.
The plan for the 119 corridor is to develop a lot of different options. The 9-mile hard surface bikeway will be separated from vehicle traffic, making it safe for cyclists of all ages and all abilities. As electric bikes become more popular, more people will be able to travel between Longmont and Boulder by bike. The bikeway will be built in the median of the Diagonal Highway and will make the connections to transit stops, regional trails, multi-use paths, and important destinations along the corridor. It will be a year-round path that will be plowed to remain open even during our snowiest months.
The State Highway 119 multimodal corridor vision includes bus rapid transit service, which will provide high-frequency, reliable, and direct transit service from Boulder to Longmont. It will also be a link with other inter-regional transit routes to more destinations in the metro area and beyond. There are several roadway improvement measures that are being considered to expand travel options for commuters, which the BRT service will utilize. All of these measures aim at reducing transit travel time, improving trip reliability, and enhancing passengers' experience. In the future, the BRT service will connect with the Northwest Rail and Front Range passenger rail services.
Making a trip on the Diagonal faster and more enjoyable would be pointless if there were bottlenecks experienced after the journey. That's why the vision plan addresses some troubled spots near the first and last miles of the trip in Boulder and Longmont.
Well, the City of Longmont is currently working on plans to do design work on Kaufman Street, a busway that will have dedicated transit lanes all the way from 1st Avenue to 9th Avenue in our downtown. This project on Kaufman Street will also provide better pedestrian access and pedestrian width for walking, as well as separated bike lanes. So despite all these improvements, automobile traffic will not be impacted at all by this project.
The City of Boulder's 28th Street Improvements Project will add continuous business access transit lanes from Iris to Pearl. These lanes will make sure that our BRT service does not get bogged down in traffic. The project will also fill in missing links in the multi-use paths along both sides of 28 from Baseline to Iris in order to create a continuous north-south multi-use path facility.
Improved mobility options and safety on State Highway 119 will ensure the transportation system continues to serve our community today and far into the future. As we move forward with the corridor vision, we'll continue to work with the community to achieve the vision of a safe, accessible, and efficient 119 corridor.
Great. Well, I hope that you enjoyed the video. I always get really excited when I see it. It's just amazing the amount of work that's being done by the amount of people. All of our partners with the City of Longmont and City of Boulder, it really truly is a team effort, and it's very exciting to see the vision. And then what we'd like to share with you this evening in our presentation is just some of the progress that we've been making and some of the specific elements of the project, as well as our community engagement process. So thank you for bringing up the slides. We can skip to the next one and the one after this. Yep, there we go. Perfect. Thanks. All of this technology, right? After a few years, a couple of years, we're getting better and better at it. But I think this information is just meant to augment, again, the information in the video to help identify all of the different components. When we talk about the Colorado 119 corridor, it really is all designed to give people options and choices so that people can choose to ride transit or use the commuter bikeway or drive along the corridor and have safe, reliable, convenient travel choices. So in addition to the bus rapid transit enhancements that include or BRT stations, park and rides, and also what you'll see us refer to as queue jumps along the corridor. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment, as well as intersection improvements and safety improvements as well. So it's meant to be a comprehensive approach to link downtown Longmont, downtown Boulder, and the communities beyond as well. Next slide, please. So again, we wouldn't be here without all of the contributions and teamwork of everyone who's been working on this project together for many years. The Colorado 119 vision came out of the Northwest Area Mobility Study that was completed by RTD back in 2014. So we've been together a long time continuing to work on this important corridor. And what is exciting to me is that we're really making a lot of progress and a lot of momentum. And CDOT has been an instrumental partner with us in the local communities and commuting solutions as well. So it's truly, truly a team effort. So next slide, please. And one of the things that's important about the Colorado 119 project and how we're looking at bringing it forward and taking that vision from the planning documents to reality is how to do this in an integrated approach. So when we are focusing on intersections, it's not just the intersection improvements for traffic for people in cars, but it will also include the bus rapid transit stations, the commuter bikeway improvements, those connections for people walking and biking to and from the transit stops. So the idea is to do this in a holistic approach for each of the intersections along the entire corridor. That gives us much more of a coordinated effort and certainly is a lot more cost effective and more beneficial for the traveling public. So this is, again, something we're doing in an integrated, holistic approach. Next slide, please. And I mentioned a minute ago the queue bypass lanes for transit. This is, I meant to kind of show what we mean by that. It's a relatively new concept in our area for this particular corridor, but it is something that's being used more and more frequently in other communities across Colorado and across the country. But one of the things that will be a unique innovation for the 119 corridor is that the queue bypass, and that basically means that the transit vehicles will be able to come off of the 119 travel lanes and pull into the station away from traffic and jump the queue, or be able to bypass the queue of traffic that's waiting at the traffic signal, and then be able to get safely and quickly back into traffic on the far side of the station. By doing this, it helps to speed up the travel time for people riding transit, and very importantly, also contributes to the reliability of the transit trip. So people not only want a quick trip by transit, people want a reliable trip as well. So the queue jumps are a very innovative and important element of the project to help ensure that advantage for transit passengers. Next slide, please. The other cornerstone, I would say really the foundation of the Colorado 119 improvements is safety, and safety for people using all modes of transportation. So again, with all of the intersection improvements, we'll be incorporating features to enhance safety for people driving, walking, biking, and accessing transit. As you saw in the video, this is a high crash corridor, and we're taking that very seriously and implementing improvements to address those crashes that are happening. Next slide, please. One example of that is the changes that will be made at the intersection of Colorado 119 and Colorado 52. That's at the IBM intersection, just kind of for point of reference. Currently, that intersection is not split apart like it's shown here in this diagram. And because of its current condition, it creates a lot of congestion. For those of us who spend a lot of time commuting on 119, we know that that pinch point is very substantial there at Colorado 52. So splitting the intersection apart will help improve the traffic flow, help reduce the congestion, and most importantly, help address the safety conflicts in that location. So as a example, it will end up looking more like the intersection of Colorado 119 and 63rd in comparison to what it looks like today. Next slide, please. And so in terms of the timeline, I mentioned we've all been working on the Colorado 119 corridor for many years and moving it from the vision stage into planning. And now we're working on the design and the engineering stages. And that process is intended to last most likely through 2023. And then with the goal being that construction would begin beginning in 2024 and beyond. Obviously, that is connected directly to the financial contributions to the corridor. So throughout this process, we are continuing to raise dollars for funding all of the improvements as well. Next slide, please. And the most important part of the Colorado 119 corridor is the community input. This whole project came about from the community through all of these different planning stages. And we want to continue to honor that, and we want to continue to offer a variety of ways for people to stay engaged with us throughout the design and engineering stages. While we've been talking about a lot of things at a high kind of macro level over the past couple of years, we're going to start getting into the design details around the bikeway, the bus rapid transit stations, the park and rides, and those important connections. So we really need your help, and we need your ideas, and we need your feedback. So we'll be offering a variety of ways to do that. We currently have an ongoing community advisory panel and a Latinx advisory panel that are being instrumental in helping us with this project. But we want to hear from everyone, and we want to hear from the community throughout this. We'll have a public engagement process coming up in June, and then other ongoing processes through the year, and then another big milestone about this time next year as well. An easy way to stay connected with the work that's happening on 119 is through our website, and you're able to sign up for email updates. So really encourage people to do that. And again, please provide us your ideas, your thoughts, your concerns, and any examples that you have of projects that you feel like would be a good role model for the Colorado 119 corridor would be great as well. Next slide. So that's just again, a quick snapshot of all of the exciting work that's happening on 119. Again, I really want to say thank you to the entire team across Boulder County and CDOT and RTD and our local community partners as well. And I have on the slide some of the websites if you're interested in learning more. I think we're putting those in the chat if you'd like to look at those. And please, we'll just open it up to questions and suggestions for the project team. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think I'm going to moderate the Q&A portion of this, and I just want to say how great it is to see so many people on this town hall. I was hoping there would be a lot of interest in this project because it is a big project, and the diagonal does play a rather large role in a lot of our lives, getting to where we work or go to school. And I also just want to give a shout out to everybody that Kathleen mentioned at the outset here, who's been working for a long time on this, and you just chip away at it bit by bit. Today was a very big day for Kathleen and her team. They submitted a $25 million grant to the federal government for funding, and it just takes a lot of these separate actions to piece together the funding for this project. So we do have some questions, and the first one actually is a question you already sort of touched on. And please, if you have other questions, if you are listening and you have a question, please put them in the chat. So there was a question about what will be done to improve bike safety. And Kathleen, you mentioned that grade separated bike lane, but maybe you can provide a little bit more detail about that, or somebody else on your team.
Sure, I'd be glad to take a stab at that, and I'd also welcome input from Alexandra Phillips as well, who's on the call, and she's been working really hard on the commuter bikeway along with Stacy and Tanya and others. But that, as you said, Commissioner Levy, the idea is to have a separate protected bikeway along the corridor, similar to US 36, where there's a separate facility for cyclists away from traffic, particularly because of the high speed of traffic along 119. And then also the plans include underpasses at the busy intersections so that cyclists and pedestrians will have a safer way to cross those streets as well. But Alexandra, would you like to add additional information?
Sure, thank you. It's going to be designed as a commuter bikeway. So it'll be wide and as straight as possible with no unnecessary curves in it. So it will be as a commuter bikeway, but built for all types of cyclists. And it'll also connect to the transit stops. So the cyclists can connect to the communities and the bus rapid transit.
Great, thank you.
Great. And then we had a question, well, another related question, maybe I'll just do that one now out of order, about bikes as well, which is that will bicyclists still be allowed to use the shoulder after the bikeway is completed?
I can
take Alexandra, do you want to take that?
The conversations with CDOT right now is that they're not planning on closing the shoulder to cyclists, but we're hoping to design the bikeway that everyone will want to use the bikeway instead of the shoulder.
Yeah, great. I think that's wonderful. We also had a question about rail, and there's a mention in your video in the YouTube about connecting with Northwest Rail. And the question is how much of the existing rail line between Boulder and Longmont will be used, upgraded, added to. And we do need to make clear that this project is not going to provide rail, but this project is being designed so that when that rail, if and when I should say, that rail is completed and funded, there will be connections. But Kathleen, maybe you can say more about that.
Sure, yeah, and that's a really good way to put it. We wanted to show how the improvements that are being planned and implemented in the short term for the Colorado 119 corridor will integrate with future plans for passenger rail along the corridor. So, and you're right, the rail is not part of this particular project, but the idea is that people would be able to use the 119 bus rapid transit as well as the commuter bikeway to be able to access the future passenger rail stations that are planned in downtown Longmont and at Boulder Junction in the city of Boulder. So this project is really about providing those connections locally within, along the corridor and within the corridor, and then it would be able to integrate with future plans for passenger rail. So thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, great. And then there are some questions about riding e-bikes, mopeds, other forms of motorized two-wheel vehicles, because there's such a there's so many different kinds. I'm just going to call them two-wheeled vehicles. So where will those be allowed?
Sure. Alexandra, would you like to respond?
Sure. It's really being designed with e-bikes in mind as well, knowing that some cyclists will be going, either e-bike cyclists or fully human-powered cyclists will be going faster, some will go slower. So it's very much designed for e-bikes in mind. The other ones, and also mobility devices, we haven't addressed the moped issue yet on that. I don't know if anyone else wanted to add to that, but it's very much designed for e-bikes.
Yeah, and maybe I can help clarify that. When we talk about e-bikes, it's a certain type of e-bike. It's the electric assist type of bicycle. It's not the more what someone might think of like a moped or a small motorbike or something like that. That really is not what this is intended to provide. So there is clear language and guidance about what types of motorized devices are allowed on these types of bikeways, but it is limited to electric assist bicycles, maybe is a better way for us to describe that. And then, as Alexandra was alluding to, also like an electric wheelchair or something like that, that is more of a mobility assist type device.
Okay, and so I think we have time for one more question, and I don't know if I can actually turn this into a short question, and but I'll try. And just a minute, let me scroll here and make sure we don't have okay. So someone asks about some of the assumptions and conclusions in the Northwest Area Mobility Study regarding whether full BRT would reduce commute times sufficiently to attract the amount of ridership that's projected.
Sure, I would be glad to respond to that, because that was a very important part of the analysis, not only with the Northwest Area Mobility Study, but also the subsequent work that RTD has led that was called the Planning and Environmental Linkage Study. And I know Chris Quinn is on the call from RTD, so he may want to jump in there as well. But this was part of the analysis to look at what were the different types of improvements that could be made along the corridor, and then what would be the commensurate level of transit ridership that would be gained from those different types of improvements. And that work that was done not only through the Northwest Mobility Study and then the Planning Environmental Linkage Study, CDOT has done additional travel analysis along the corridor, and that is where the idea to implement the queue jumps at the intersection has come in, because that is really the most cost-effective way to gain the highest again travel travel time reliability and quickest travel time for transit that is what's really tied to boosting transit ridership. So there's been quite a bit of technical analysis that's gone into these different scenarios for that ridership forecasting. And I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
Hi, this is Chris Quinn with RTD, and just to follow up on what Kathleen said, yes, we did conduct a additional ridership analysis in the the Colorado 119 Planning and Environmental Linkage Report. So that's why sometimes you will see different sets of numbers, and as part of the design work that CDOT is leading right now, we're trying to even come up with further updates on those, taking into account both the travel time and the projected ridership. So as the project continues to evolve, we will continue to refine those numbers related to both the ridership and the travel time.
Right, okay. Well, that's all the time we have for questions. And I think we actually were able to answer almost or get all of them asked. If you do have a question, you discover that you had one and we didn't have time to get to it, there was that email, and we'll have that available at the end of the town hall so you can jot that down if it went too quickly. And there is a website on our transportation planning webpage at bouldercounty.org. You can go to the transportation page and you'll see these slides, I believe, as well as other information. So I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Matt Jones to take us to the next phase.
Hi, everybody. Matt Jones, Boulder County Commissioner, live in Louisville. Thanks for coming tonight. It's great to see the great turnout, like Claire said. And just one note from one of the questions for me, Northwest Rail, it's a matter of when. We voted for it, we're paying for it, we should get it. That's my view. But my job right now is to talk about public comment, and we'll have 6 people speak who pre-registered, up to 3 minutes each. And I would ask you to state your name and your address, if you would, please. And I'll go through the batting order here since it's baseball season. Start with Diane Groff, and go to Fred Simmons, then Alex Markovich, then Gary Sprung, then Aiden Sisnick, and finally Leora Frankel. So Diane, do you want to jump in?
Sure, yeah, thank you. And so this is in regards to the Highway 119 comments period, correct?
Yes.
Or actually, really any transportation. This is sort of more open-ended. So consider this a town hall period on transportation in Boulder County.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I work at the Center for People with Disabilities, and so mobility access is always appreciated to be included, and we are part of the Mobility for All, and appreciate that the access points, from Longmont to Boulder are holistically viewed. I guess we still have a question in regards to accessing the multi-use bikeway on either end. Like, what will that, it's kind of like building a park. Like, how do you get there? What will the trailhead, so to speak, be of the bikeway? So that's really all my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane. And now on to Fred Simmons. Are you there, Fred? You have to unmute. The little microphone down the lower left-hand corner. Not happening. So what I will do is go to the next person for now, and maybe staff can help if Fred is here, get him set up. And again, if you would state your name and address, that would be much appreciated. Alex Markovich.
Yes, hello, Alex Markovich here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. So Alex Markovich, 5570 Magnolia Drive in Nederland, Colorado. Actually, I'm on unincorporated Boulder County land. The Nederland address is just the postal address. I have a comment and a question, and this is related to transportation issues surrounding the Gross Dam expansion project that Denver Water now apparently has full legal rights to pursue and has stated its intention to begin this spring, right? I live in the communities above on Magnolia, above the dam. So the transportation issues most likely will not be impacting this neighborhood right at the beginning of the project when they will be focusing on expanding the dam. But over time, they will have to remove a large number of trees from around the dam area. So I'm anticipating that Denver Water will propose the paving of Magnolia Drive, the unpaved part of Magnolia Drive, to assist those, all the truck journeys they will need to make along Magnolia up to peak to remove, the timber they're going to be cutting. So first of all, I just want to make the statement to the commissioners of why I personally and a large number, I think, of residents up here oppose the paving of Magnolia. And there's really two reasons. One is that an unpaved road slows down the traffic, so it makes the neighborhood safer, both for people driving on the roads up here and for people walking, crossing the roads, and similarly makes it safer for the animals. We are fortunate to have, a large animal community up here, including elk, that regularly cross the road, and the slower traffic, certainly helps with the safety, right? Second, the reason for not paving is to keep the surface of the road soft and somewhat uneven, because in the winter we observe the road that's not paved is less slippery than the paved parts of Magnolia, right? We like that. And also, you may or may not know, but Magnolia, the dirt part of Magnolia, is a very famous running practice corridor, and runners come from literally, across the country and from outside of the country specifically to run this area at high altitude on dirt roads, right? So these are all the reasons for not paving it. I hope, and I'm asking the commissioners to prepare themselves for that future, I'm anticipating, request from Denver Water, and to realize that the neighborhood will be opposing it. Will ask you to oppose that. So that's kind of my comment. And my question is, what power do the commissioners have to regulate how Denver Water executes this project with regard to transportation and really other issues? I mean, the residents of the county would like to know. I mean, I understand that the various powers were eliminated based on the agreement, but I'd like to know where you're at on your understanding of your powers to regulate things like that.
Alex.
Yeah,
thank you. So we're going to continue with public comment in this session. We're running a little short of time. Staff can get back to you on that, Alex, if we don't have time to answer. Gary Sproul. Say your name and address, Gary, as if you've never done this public comment.
All right,
all right.
I live at 3675 Aspen Court in Boulder. I have been skeptical of the Highway 119 project for two main reasons. One is, how much money is it going to cost, and how does that compare to building fast tracks? It seems to me the Northwest Rail line, I mean, if this is talking, if we're talking $200-300 million to build all this stuff for the Highway 119, that goes a long way toward getting fast tracks started. So I haven't seen numbers really to tell me how much this really is going to cost. And the second reason I've been skeptical is the question of induced demand. Just about everything we do to fix our highways, to make them wider, to make them smoother, to make curves faster, all of that causes people to drive more. And so we end up with having more driving. And that's the way it's been for 80 years in America. We're constantly investing in our roads, And the result is that people drive more. And the driving is one of the main causes of global warming. And so I'm very, is this project going to induce demand? Well, listening to the staff tonight and listening to the nature of the project, well, I think you're doing as good a job as you can in the context of a highway project. I appreciate all the stuff about bypass lanes and such. But I've got to raise the question. I mean, is this going to induce demand? So maybe you can't answer that today, but that's my comment. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Gary. Next is Aiden Sesnick. If you say your name and address, please.
Sure, Aiden Sesnick, 883 Meadow Lake Road in Niwot. I speak to you this evening to make the case that this project is seriously misguided. It makes no sense as a practical transportation solution and represents everything wrong with the politics of the Boulder area. Why is there a need to construct a new bike path when the Lobo Trail already provides a bike accessible connection along this corridor? Further, can Boulder County seriously stand behind the claim that projects like these provide transportation as opposed to recreation? No, because clearly cycling is just not an appealing mode of transport for a good fraction of the year. I would like to see the brilliant public officials who propose this project commute by bike from Longmont to Boulder during the brutal July heat or during a January snowstorm. Secondly, I cannot view the bus lane element of this project as anything other than fundamentally and seriously misguided. I had to laugh when a bus got stuck in a sinkhole recently and there were all of 6 people on it. This is far from surprising, considering that anyone who can afford Boulder County's insane tax rates and housing prices can clearly afford a car, and driving will always be preferable. Several years ago, when I was a freshman at CU, I rode the bus from campus to my job in North Longmont. This process took about an hour and a half for the northbound trip and 2.5 hours for the southbound trip. By car, this would have taken at most a half hour. Bus travel around here is unreliable, extremely time-consuming, inconvenient, and unnecessary for the wealthy population who clearly can afford to drive. Further, a full-price bus ticket costs more than driving. I simply do not believe that there is some massive untapped market for bus service in Boulder County that will be enabled by a new bus lane. I submit this project has nothing to do with finding practical solutions to real problems and everything to do with moral posturing about environmental issues to please the Boulderite ecomaniacs. Carbon emissions are indeed a serious problem, but these obscene sums of money ought to be spent on the modes of transportation people are actually using. For example, why not optimize the road network to reduce the amount of braking and accelerating during driving, thereby increasing gas mileage? There exist many respectable, practical, and effective solutions to the problem of reducing emissions. This project isn't one of them. This is what I meant when I said this project represents everything I hate about the politics of the People's Republic of Boulder. In the words of George Carlin, Boulder is a town of bourgeois liberals who think the biggest problem in this world is that there aren't enough bike paths. Projects like this one genuinely make me embarrassed to be from here. Build bike and bus lanes to your heart's content, but don't pretend that the average Boulder County citizen is planning on giving up driving in favor of riding the bus or biking. Don't pretend this project is anything but a grotesque waste of taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thanks, Aiden. Next is Leora Frankel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm calling about, I'm participating in regards to the safety aspect of the intersections. I note that you called this a high crash corridor. I unfortunately was in one of those serious crashes last summer on this corridor. And I have the personal experience of recognizing that this road was built for a different era. It was built for a quieter, lower traffic area. The problem is these intersections that have no traffic light, no roundabout, where you're supposed to cross multiple lanes of 60-mile-per-hour traffic. You can hear them a little bit upset. I'm calling in because I feel so strongly about other people's lives. I could not find a report talking about these intersections, how many people die there. I've seen news reports in the Daily Camera. I know many people die. My accident was on August 5th. I got a report, there was this, just on the same road on Fordham, trying to cross over. There was an accident on July 6th. There was an accident on August 3rd, 2 days. This is last year, 2 days before my accident. There was an accident on September 15th. This is just on moderate volume Fordham. All of these were serious accidents which brought in the police. One was a rollover. I don't even understand how you could consider having bikes cross these low volume and moderate volume roads when already the problem is so severe. I have a friend who used to put her dog at gun barrel grooming. She told me every time she tries to take a left from Boulder to gun barrel grooming, she feels she's putting her life in her hands. I think that first you should get the reports, you should get the data, you should see how many people die at each of these intersections. You should not add bikes to the mix. Cyclists are going to die on these roads. Every time they try to cross over, you have this people who are coming off at 60 miles per hour or slowing down a bit, coming off. They're now trying to focus on how they're going to cross the next few lanes. You should consider traffic lights, you should consider roundabouts, you should consider saving people's lives before you jump headlong into this. And my question is, how, when engineers design this, how many minutes of commute are equal, of saving in a commute are equal to a person's life? Because there must be some sort of math that's done, even if it's a very gruesome kind of math. And you should decide what is more important, this commute. And that also does go back to the train. A train would actually save lives, unlike more and more cars.
Time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leora. We'll go back to Fred Simmons. Hopefully Fred can get on here. Fred, are you there? You can unmute.
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Figured out how to unmute.
There you go.
Yeah, my name is Fred Simmons. I live at 2080 Pearl Street, Boulder, Colorado. I own the property that is at the intersection of the diagonal Highway 119 and Highway 52. I own 26 acres there. And for the last few months, I have been working on a project with others to donate sufficient amounts of that land to the Boulder County Housing Authority to either put together some type of a public-private partnership or just flat out donate the land to develop affordable housing. And I know this is a transportation town hall meeting, but I haven't heard anything about any affordable housing so far in it. And unfortunately, I've had been having a lot of trouble getting anybody to meet with me at the Boulder County departments of open space, which I have to deal with, and the permitting with Dale Case and so forth. I believe that the project that we are working on in connection with the 119 corridor makeover really would enhance that the 119 project and be an asset to it, because we're talking about 26 acres out there in which affordable housing could be developed on. Now, I do not have a conservation easement on the property. It's a private conservation easement, so it would need to be amended or lifted, and that is where I'm running into most of my well, basically all the problems at this point. And so I would like to be able to talk to either commissioners, one or two or whatever, one-on-one, to go over what the project is, because I think that it's an important project that would alleviate, hopefully, some of the crisis that we're facing on housing in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. So now we'll do quick answers to some of the things that come up, and then go to the wrap up, where we'll each say a few words, the commissioners will. Two quick things, Leora, the idea for the bike path is to have underpasses so that you minimize any kind of cross lane traffic. Alex, your question is pretty involved. We'll have staff get back to you to make sure we get an answer for you. And Fred, we can have the Parks and Open Space Department contact you for further conversation, so they can talk to you first, and then we understand this situation better. But Marta, Claire, do you have anything more to add?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I will add, thank you. First of all, thank you to everybody for your participation this evening. It's very helpful as a commissioner for us to hear your input, and whether it's online, as we shared earlier on the commissioners@bouldercounty.org, or to participate in these types of town halls and or public hearings and public comment that happens in the mornings once a month as well. So we appreciate that. Just a couple responses in regards to Gross Dam Reservoir connected to the transportation and what's going to be happening there with construction in the area for everybody who will be affected. And you're correct there in regards to Denver Water now managing and being in charge of that project. We do have are bringing on a staff person to really support the settlement part of Gross Dam Reservoir in the giving us and putting together a system that we will be able to use to look at the different types of mitigation efforts, and some of that might be transportation. So more to come on that, and we'll be sharing that, and it'll be on our website as that person comes on and can give some more direction for us and more direction for community members who are affected during that project. So a couple of the other pieces, really appreciate the input in regards to just the experience that everybody has in different areas of Boulder County, and how this project, just like any other project in Boulder County, may or may not affect, may or may not support the daily needs of residents. And I personally feel like it's really important for folks to feel and know how the numbers are working, the funding, the transportation costs, and also when there's skepticism or if folks feel like they're being misguided. And I appreciate hearing that. The safety concerns are really important, and we have staff that's been working on that, continues to work on that with local goals, with our area goals in regards to safety. And so to be reminded of that and to make sure that we are presenting that information is also really important for decision making and policies as we continue working on not just this project and transportation, but all of the other ones that we are using. I really appreciated, Diane, your comment, and we've been on the mobility and access committee together, as that's one of the board roles that I'm able to participate in as well. And Alex Hyde-Wright, who's on this call this evening, is leading that effort just as far as the Bikeway project team that's happening on this Highway 119 work. Designs will be ready to be looked at and more input to be given this summer. The to and from BRT station, that project, and input from again, another process of community input. So we would welcome you and your participation, and any others that you think could give some helpful insights onto what we may be missing, what we may need to include in regards to the mobility and access that you brought up. And in regards to Brett, I wondered if that was you, and I think you're in my email box, and so you're on my list of folks to respond to in regards to the idea about affordable housing. And I do think there's a connection. All great needs and all great issues are in most cases connected, and housing and transportation is one of those. So you are on my list to follow up as well. And I'd love to turn it over to Commissioner Levy for some response to the public comment this evening on our transportation topic.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And I think Commissioner Loachman touched on a lot of the questions that came in, but there were just a couple, and we'll get staff to respond to some of these ones that we don't have the answers to, or that we answer incorrectly because they're the experts. But the concern about induced demand is always a very legitimate concern when it comes to transportation improvements. And the goal here, if you might have noticed, Gary, from the schematics in the presentation, that there's not going to be another lane, full length lane here of traffic and travel in each direction, because that kind of capacity increase probably would create induced demand. What we're really trying to do is make the bus more a quicker way to go by providing those queue jumps. And then, as the opportunity arises, perhaps extend those lanes and have them just be express lanes. And so, the cost of the project relative to the cost of Northwest Rail, just the Highway 119 improvement portion of this is about $124 million versus like over $1 billion for Northwest Rail. And so, we want to do what we can to provide multimodal transportation on this really, really heavily traveled corridor from Boulder to Longmont, and then beyond Longmont into Weld County, with the feasible sources of funds that are available. But these funds would just disappear with no result if we were to apply them to Northwest Rail, and then we wouldn't have the bike improvements, and we wouldn't have faster times for BRT. So, regrettably, there are always trade-offs, and in this case, these seem like the best way to reduce congestion on the highway. I also just wanted to mention to Mr. Markovitz up there on Magnolia Road, I don't know if he's still on, but that is a county road, and Boulder County will determine whether that should be paved or not. And at this time, our transportation staff are telling us that there are no plans to pave that. I think for all the reasons you suggested, that people don't want paved roads in the mountains where it encourages people to go faster. And so that's there are no plans right now to pave it, and we don't before we were to change that, we would work very closely with the Magnolia community. I think I'm not going to try to go point by point because we need to wrap up and let people get on with their evenings, but I just want to close just by thanking everybody for showing an interest in transportation issues in Boulder County, for sharing your views with us. And please tune in for future town halls. When the weather improves, we're gonna get up to the mountains and try to do some in person there so that we can start to address some of the needs of unique communities in Boulder County. During the 12 months that we've been doing town halls, we've been doing them on the screen, and that does seem to facilitate a lot of participation by people, but we don't get to chat together, and you don't get to chat with each other through this format. And over the last several weeks, I've been doing more and more things in person, and it's just been wonderful to get to actually see people and talk to them and follow them down the corridor as we end a meeting and have a few extra words. So that's our hope, starting I think in June, to start doing these meetings, possibly in May, to do these in person. So thanks everybody for coming and joining.
If I could comment, that would be great.
I'm sorry, I wasn't quite finished, but I was just going to wrap up and say thanks to everybody for coming, and then I was going to turn it over to you.
Okay. I wasn't sure. So thanks. And thanks everybody for coming. I'll echo what Martin and Claire said. We had a good turnout tonight, 60 plus people. And it's great to share this information, get feedback from you. And for those of you who put the comment in a Q&A and didn't have a chance to speak, we'll read those and know about them. And we'll get back to you. And I guess the one thing I would say, many of the questions have been answered by Marta and Claire in this. And again, Leora, my sympathies to you and your auto accident. The idea of the bike path, though, is to have underpasses over the roads that it crosses, that goes underneath, to lower the risk to bicyclists. Because I used to live in Niwot for a while. I used to ride my bike in once in a while, and it is a busy highway. And the other thing is, for me, completing Northwest Rail is just a critical piece. It's promised to us, and we should have that. And I'm hoping that Front Range Rail and maybe some money from the federal government can help us complete that road, or the rail project, because basically every other corridor has gotten most of what or all of what they were promised. And so we need to have the same. So that's my 2 cents on that. But we really value hearing from you. If you want to email us, you can. And we work, try to make things better in the county. We've been very busy. As you might imagine, we had the pandemic, like everybody's dealing with. We're working through how to distribute Americans Rescue Plan Act money, ARPA money, and then we're helping people recover from the Marshall Fire. So we're pretty busy, but at the same time, Boulder County's had a culture of citizen involvement, and we respect that and honor that and welcome that. So keep it coming to us. We appreciate you, and thanks for listening in today.
Thank you all for joining us as we continue to add more public opportunities and education about the county activities. The 3rd floor of the Boulder County Courthouse on Pearl Street is almost completed with the major renovation, and we'll be welcoming in-person hearings as soon as May 15th. We will be opening up for every grand reopening early June, and would love to see you all in the hearing room soon for participation, for your interest, for your ideas and solutions. And just a reminder, as you'll see on the slide, that our next meetings are May 12th and June 9th, and we will be in person. We'll be up in the mountains is the plan, so more to come on all of that. We appreciate you, appreciate the staff, appreciate our interpreters in both Spanish language and American Sign Language that have joined us this evening to share this information. Have a good night.